The very important part of this story comes directly from Elizabeth Lane, who wrote this expose. I'll call it an expose. Did this on behalf of Candace Owens in response to this video series about Erika Kirk. As Elizabeth says, I'm going to be blunt. I've reached the point where I find Erika Kirk deeply disturbing, not because of rumors or gossip, but because of consistent, observable patterns of behavior. To be clear, everything I say in this post is my opinion. I'm not claiming this as fact. I'm saying this is what I think Erika Kirk is. I come from the world of acting and modeling. I've spent years around social climbers, opportunists, image curators, and people who treat relationships as ladders. That is why I left that world. Most of these people are shallow and harmless. A few are dangerous. Erika falls into the latter category, not because she's just ambitious, but because of how calculated and performative her ambition appears to be. I believe she may be a psychopath. Let's see how long I have to wait before Colin realizes. There we go. Which stands out immediately is the reaction she provokes in people, which is very common with psychopaths. Across the board, including from people who support her publicly, the private reaction is the same. I can't watch her. Not criticism, just physical discomfort. People turn off interviews because the presentation feels artificial to the point of being unbearable. Let me explain. Also, Jasmine Crockett's been on this show multiple times, so I guess she has to reduce ourselves to doing commercials rather than coming and talking to us, but that's a whole story. That kind of response does not happen accidentally, and it does not happen often. Research in psychology shows that humans are highly sensitive to emotional incongruence, mismatches between facial expression, tone, and content. When effect appears simulated rather than genuine, the brain registers it as a threat signal. This activates discomfort and avoidance, even if the person cannot consciously explain why. So many of us felt this way, but we could not explain why we could not watch her. Studies on psychopathy, particularly those built on a work of psychologists like Robert Hare, describe traits such as rehearsed emotional display and shallow affect. These traits can create what observers experience as an uncanny interpersonal dynamic. The discomfort arises in people who want to shut it off because most people rarely encounter extreme affective mimicry in everyday life. So the brain struggles to categorize what it is detecting. Erika is attractive enough, and she has every tool in her position to sell this organically, except for one thing: emotion. The entire story of what happened could have helped her to sell this fully. She really would have been the last person on earth to be a suspect, if not for the FBI's terrible mistakes, TPUSA's lies, and her very fake performance. Plenty of attractive, ambitious women move through media spaces without triggering that response, even though we know what they are. This is about something else: an extreme disconnect between presentation she puts out and perceived authenticity. Erika is not the archetype of a model actress seeking money and fame and then settling into a quiet life with a wealthy, good-looking husband. She's the wolf type who wants to be in the place of that husband. She is not born for a supporting role. She is a decision-maker type. She appears to pursue proximity to power, moving fluidly between television, nonprofits, branding opportunities, and ideological spaces that maximize exposure. Her previous partners are guys women like her would date. Muscular, jacked, good-looking. Even though they are not people with huge potential, they are all somewhat established. They are good stepping stones until the right person shows up. Mimicry. Thank you. Now looking at her previous partners, I'd say Charlie was not her type visually, but he was exactly what she was looking for in a man. Potential to be a great power. What Erika was looking for is the same thing Hillary Clinton was looking for when she met Bill. She recognized that Bill Clinton, that is for sure, was her ticket to power, the power she could control, and she was right. She realized she could create a great brand out of me and herself, and they still are a brand. The Clintons. No one in this world can say they love each other. We don't. They are a brand that works. This is why she's sticking around despite Epstein and Lewinsky. Also, if you think I am the decision maker, you must not have never been in close proximity to Hillary and I. She moves the game. She is the decision maker. Erika saw a brand with Charlie. She also saw that Charlie could one day become president if he wanted to. Charlie had the ear of the most powerful segment of any society, students. He was going to be very important in politics, and she was not missing that ride. What's striking is how completely her public identity reshapes itself after the relationship begins. The aesthetic, the tone, the values, the presentation all change overnight. The persona shifts into the role that best fits Charlie's world: devout Christian, modest, supportive housewife. That kind of rapid adaptation is quite impressive for a usual person, but not a psychopath. They do it all the time. And my head story goes like this. For a moment, it works. She becomes the wife of a rising political figure with access to donors, institutions, and national platforms. At that point, the ceiling isn't social media influence, it's empire building, foundations, global reach, a legacy brand, the Kirks. It's obvious that Charlie listens to her, whether it's about donors or the trajectory of TPUSA. The most influential figure in any mentally healthy man's life is his wife. She's going to be his biggest influence, and that's just how it is. This is why you need to pick your partner wisely. Everything was going well until Charlie made decisions based on conscience rather than expansion and money. He turned down money. He refuses to play dirty politics. I'm assuming someone like Erika would have married into this because she had a vision for this brand and would not be very happy that the life she appears to have signed up for, power couple, expanding influence, historical relevance, was collapsing into something else entirely: domesticity, housewife, kids, and now Charlie's refusing to accept the money that can make him a global power, i.e., Israel. A supporting role instead of center stage is not her thing. Her husband died a few days ago, and she walks onto the stage as if she were born there. It comes naturally to her. She knows it, and she wants it. Just days after her husband's death, she was already laying out ambitious plans for the company over Zoom. It's obvious she was always deeply involved in the business and knew exactly where to pick up where her turn came. What people struggle to watch, what makes the screen unbearable, is not grief. It's the absence of emotional continuity. Performances can be learned. Trust me, as a former actress, I can speak to that. But emotion can't be improvised or mimicked if you've never experienced it. That's why we are dealing with a psychopath who has never really experienced these emotions and does not know how to play them. And audiences feel it instantly. It's fake. Again, my opinion. This isn't an accusation of crime. I'm not claiming this is what happened, or is it a fact? It's an analysis I made after watching her long enough. And quite honestly, I'm sick of this shit. And so are we. Couldn't have said it better. I could not have crafted a better statement. But this is why we are firmly in the camp of Erika Kirk has something to hide. What is she hiding? We're not quite sure yet. But Candace, in a very condensed version of what has been this 3-part series she put out on Erika Kirk, will explain right now.
How does Erika Kirk know Tyler Bowyer? She couldn't recall that in person. We can't get an answer. That seems to be something that she doesn't want to answer, right? But Tyler's a very significant person because he introduced her to Charlie. He set that up, right? Not a good guy, Tyler Bowyer. And there was a rumor, which I will tell you what Turning Point's response was, but and it was stronger than a rumor. It was somebody very much in Charlie's life who said, had reached out to me and said that Charlie told this individual that he was establishing Doge because $10 million was missing.
Much like the JFK assassination, there are multiple layers that go into an assassination of this magnitude. There is no question that there were scams being run out the wazoo when it came to the finances at TPUSA. The Financial Guys channel, if those of you want to remind me in the chat, get gentleman's name, that went and explored the details at their Arizona offices of what was going on. So when somebody steps in and says, you're going to do this, what would be the point? Who's Charlie Kirk? Charlie Kirk is the person who accesses tens of millions of voters in the United States who follow his lead. And the people that will supply that money want things done a certain way to make sure that those voters are engaged. And that includes supporting Israel. It's an ancillary part of the process, but the money scam, that's just to make sure that all of the players in the game are on board. And boy, are they on board, especially Tyler Bowyer, who's probably the most suspicious along with Andrew Colvin, outside of Erika Kirk. And we know who the puppet masters are. Have you seen what Bill Ackman has been saying about war in Iran on social media today? I'd sure like to know what he said in that meeting with Charlie last summer. The great noticing is still going on.
Okay. Heard that. I went to Justin Strife when there was communication between us two, the COO, and I specifically asked about that. I said, I heard this, and this person definitely knows Charlie, he knows Erika. And, you know, is there any truth to this? They said, no, that's not true. Well, fast forward to today, and they've fired a lot of people, and, you know, a lot of people are speaking. And somebody who was within Turning Point USA confirmed to me that money was indeed missing out of Turning Point USA. I can back that up 100%, which is why I'm saying it publicly, that there were millions missing out of Turning Point USA. And they were wondering where that money was going. And they specifically said that the money was missing out of Turning Point Action, which is headed up by Tyler Bowyer. The reason why I'm bringing that up, and the reason why it's coming to my mind, is because Tyler Bowyer has a relationship with Lori. And Lori was put on the board of what's that company, whatever it's called, that collects data and nobody really kind of knows what it does. Was it like AZ Tech or something like that?
Or Palantir. And the woman that she's referring to, Lori, is Erika's mother. I'm pretty sure that's who she's referring to.
And I remember when I was sitting with Erika, she kind of brought this up, and she's like, a lot of people want to know why my mother was put on that board, but it was just because we needed a familiar name. That's what she said. Lori was put on the board.
Tyler Bowyer was pardoned by Donald Trump. Funny how that happens, right?
Because they needed a familiar name. I guess there's just not enough billionaires that donate to Turning Point USA for them to have put someone other than Lori, who we are told is very sick, by the way, and is very sick. But they put her on the board of that company. It makes me wonder if that is true, and also why Justin Strife has a different version of events than somebody else at the company regarding whether or not money was missing. There's a lot there that I feel needs to come out. I do not believe for a single second their version of events that Charlie established Doge 7 days before he died because he just wanted to feel like Elon Musk and use an expression. I don't buy that for even 1 second. So
the other thing that you have to remember, which is very important part of this story, which I have pointed out before covering this exact part of it, Tyler Bowyer was pardoned by the President of the United States. But it's also, there are so many outstanding layers to what's going on here in terms of tracking of the money. The fact that there have been no formal investigations into any members of TPUSA shows you how high this goes. It definitely goes to the president and his cohorts. And as of now, we are a lawless nation and nothing's going to happen.
I do want to say that. And there is something casual about the way that Erika lies and how she lies about her background, how she lies about whether or not she's had boyfriends, didn't date for 5 years. That's not true. It's almost like she glitches and she doesn't remember. And there's an element of that to me feels like information is being downloaded, like she's remembering things and can't quite remember it. And I'm going to show you this clip because tomorrow we're obviously going to get into her pageant days and how she meets Tyler Bowyer and the connections in Romania. But I do want to show you this clip of her just kind of lying very casually about how she got into the pageant world. This is her discussing that back in 2020. Take a listen.
Now, one last thing that I do want to point out, since a lot of people are asking who Tyler Bowyer is. Tyler Bowyer was the CFO of Turning Point USA until 8 days prior to Charlie's assassination, when he was fired. What was he fired for? Misappropriating funds is the story that is actually the real story. But did you know that Turning Point USA rehired Tyler right after Charlie was killed? The great noticing continues.
Was it after that? That's when you started pageants, or when did that come about?
Right. So the pageant world to me is something that it was an interesting season of life. It was nothing that I was ever groomed for. It was nothing that was ever on my radar. I wanted to play professional basketball.
Tomboy.
That was my thing ever since I was 5. Like, that was I wanted to play, and that was all I wanted to do. I was a gym rat, for lack of a better term. And I remember getting something in the mail when I had come home from school one summer, and it was like, hey, you should compete at Miss Arizona USA. Someone nominated you. And I was like, I don't know who would nominate me for that, but okay. So I shared it with my mom, and I was reviewing all the different things that you have to go through. And I thought to myself, if I were to ever win this, the most important thing out of it would be to be able to make a difference with the title.
Nice.
I don't care about the photo shoots. I just want to be able to overbook myself, being able to get involved with the local communities, with the local organizations that are actually making a difference. So the pageant world for me was something that was not a form of narcissism. It was more along the terms of being a steward for my state, especially as it hit our 100th year celebration.
Yeah, that's not right. That's not true. Erika has been involved in pageants from the very beginning. Her mother is definitely the person who pushed that. I actually do believe that Erika loves basketball. There's no question she plays basketball. But this idea that she didn't want it is just not true. It's so objectively not true. Erika, without question, and anybody who's being objective and honest and looking at her history of the people that she dated and the people that she wanted to be in close proximity to, can guarantee to you that this girl wanted to be famous.
I agree. And sometimes when you're presented with an opportunity that would involve the removal of somebody who thought that they had chosen or decided to marry somebody that they thought loved them. This is why love is very tough, especially these days. Love's supposed to be unconditional. That's why my love is reserved for dogs and even cats. There's a lot of smoke, and where there's smoke, there's a lot of fire. And the key to unraveling the U.S.-Israel relationship will come out of this story, this case. And we might not be able to get anywhere with it today, but I'm telling you, citizens' arrests, I don't see why we can't do it.